Dear colleagues, exactly a year has passed since the act of sabotage in the Baltic Sea. Nearly as much time has passed since the first Security Council meeting on this topic as well. Over the past 12 months, we have heard a great deal about how the national investigations carried out by Germany, Denmark and Sweden are about to find the culprits of this crime any day now. However, there have been no results so far, nor are there any to this day, despite 7 meetings of the Security Councils of this topic, both open and closed meetings. At the same time, more and more evidence is emerging in the expert community showing that Nord Stream explosion is the work of Washington, which stooped to committing this outrageous crime guided by a narrow, selfish desire to consolidate its dominance in Europe, which is in dire need of Russian energy resources. Madam President, I'd like to remind you that we are not talking about some prank carried out by hooligans. We are talking about a terrorist act that targeted international pipeline infrastructure and led to massive economic and environmental consequences for a number of states. Nobody denies that it was committed using an explosive device. Therefore, there is every reason to believe that it falls under the International Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Bombings of December 15, 1997, to which Germany, Denmark and Sweden are all parties.
主席女士，今天是北溪管道发生爆炸1周年。
Madam President, today marks the first anniversary of the explosion of the Nord Stream pipelines. Since the incident, the international community has been paying great attention to it, and many members of the Security Council, including China, have repeatedly called for an objective, impartial and professional investigation to find out the truth as soon as possible. Regretfully, to date, there is still no clear and authoritative conclusion on this matter. Russia is also one of the main parties involved in the explosion. We call on countries concerned to actively communicate and cooperate with Russia rather than simply rejecting it. Any attempt to politicize the investigation would only create suspicion and cause more speculations. On the Nord Stream issue, the international community, including the Security Council, should refrain from applying double standards.
We regret the Russian mission continues to call repetitive meetings on this topic, despite the number of other pressing matters on the Council's agenda. Russia has repeatedly claimed it seeks an impartial investigation, despite its own premature attempts to place the blame on certain countries. It is no surprise it selectively promotes narratives in this Council that comport with its preordained conclusions while dismissing alternative views.
Statement. I give the floor to
President, before I finish, let us pause for a moment on the fact that it was Russia who called this meeting. Russia is claiming it is concerned about the destruction of civilian infrastructure, so much so that it seeks to commemorate the anniversary of this attack. Yet we all know that almost every single day of the year is an anniversary of a deliberate Russian attack on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. Madam President, Russia's hypocrisy today is nothing new, but it bears repeating. If they are seriously concerned about civilian infrastructure, they must cease their relentless attacks and ensure accountability for the appalling destruction and suffering they have caused. Thank you.
Madam President, energy is a cornerstone of modern life, and the reliable supply of natural gas is crucial. Given the heightened fragility of the global energy landscape, acts that endanger critical infrastructure pose a significant risk to many. With this backdrop, Japan is acutely alarmed by the incident concerning the Nord Stream pipelines, as well as its long-term environmental implications.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam President, France clearly expressed its concern a year ago when underwater explosions struck the Nord Stream gas pipelines. We took reports indicating that these explosions were the result of a deliberate act of sabotage very seriously. Our position has not changed. This is a serious incident which calls for in-depth investigation. However, one cannot help but wonder about the reasons which led Russia to request for the fourth time a council meeting on this subject. Since our last meeting in July, no new credible or meaningful elements have emerged to justify a new debate on this issue.
Aucun élément nouveau, crédible et sérieux n'est apparu qui justifie un nouveau débat.
Madam President, I have no doubt that today we will once again hear from our Western colleagues that Russia is allegedly distracting the Council from more serious issues by insisting on discussing the terrorist attacks against the Nord Stream. Their tactic is a simple and clear one, namely to drag things out, ideally for another year or two or three, and then to say that it isn't possible to continue the investigation due to the statute of limitations. We suggest that they not waste any time or effort on this. Any such attempts are doomed to fail. Our country will continue to push for an objective and thorough investigation into the full circumstances of what happened with the mandatory involvement of Russian investigation authorities and all interested parties. It will insist on bringing those who ordered and executed this act of sabotage to justice, and we will use all the means that are at disposal for this, including in the Security Council. We believe that the Security Council should speak out clearly regarding this terrorist act and point out the need for an objective investigation and accountability for those responsible. We trust on the support of all those who understand that otherwise any country could become a victim of such an attack committed by a state that is utterly intoxicated with the sense of its own impunity. The Security Council must send a clear message that crimes against cross-border pipeline infrastructure are unacceptable and that avoiding responsibility for such crimes is impossible. Only this will prevent their recurrence. I thank you.
On an important pending issue.
The Nord Stream pipeline explosion bears on the safety of transnational infrastructure and has a negative impact on global energy supply, marine environment and safety of maritime shipping as well. Countries concerned have been conducting national investigations for quite some time now, yet the result remains elusive. The longer the delay, the more difficult it will be to collect evidence and uncover the truth. The more doubts and speculations it will arouse, and the less credible the results of the investigations will be.
Thank you to the briefers for their perspectives. Russia is claiming it is concerned about the destruction of civilian infrastructure, so much so that it seeks to commemorate the anniversary of this attack. Yet we all know that almost every single day of the year is an anniversary of a deliberate Russian attack on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine.
Its unreserved condemnation of the acts of sabotage.
Madam President, Russia's hypocrisy today is nothing new, but it bears repeating. If they are seriously concerned about civilian infrastructure, they must cease their relentless attacks and ensure accountability for the appalling destruction and suffering they have caused.
We regret the Russian mission continues. The United States maintains confidence in the ongoing investigations into the facts of what happened, led by the governments of Denmark, Germany, and Sweden. The attacks took place in Denmark and Sweden's maritime zones, and these governments are conducting thorough and impartial investigations. Russia has repeatedly claimed it seeks an impartial investigation, despite its own premature attempts to place the blame on certain countries.